Hello everyone, welcome, good morning and stuff. It's 8:10 here in Sweden and it's time for a cup of coffee and some programming. We're still doing the what is it called? The Mocha Pot Americano, because I like it so much. Hello level 0. Welcome. Let's see here. So, what we're doing today, I started... First I put it at 8 o'clock, then I put it at 8:15, and I started at 8:10. It's an average value of time. Sorry. I'm throwing things everywhere. It's getting... Here we go. So, we have this old project where I was, from last year, where I was thinking of sort of doing a Metroidvaniaish thing. Hello, Anders. And the last commit is from August 20. I think I didn't really work on it after August 12, 11 maybe, last year. So it's almost exactly 1 year old. But I did something August 20 where I updated some handler array. I mean, that's almost the same date. Then I didn't touch it. So we'll see if it compiles at all and stuff. Let's just get the latest Odin compiler first. Git pull. Wait, is the git remote? Wait, this is on the wrong remote. So we start the day with doing some git command line. Wow. Okay, it didn't like that. I tried to drag Firefox tab and I dropped it on top of this terminal emulator, and it just was like, you dropped a file, and I'm like, wait, no. I tried to move a window out of another tab well and dropped it on top, and then it got sad. I guess this window implements some very generic catch-all drop handler thingy. So what we're gonna do here is I just went here to fetch the correct URL, and so I have a fork of it that I use for some branches. For some reason I renamed it to Codin because it's Carl Odin. Haha. But you can write git URLs, git remote set URL origin, and then put that one in, and I think that's it. Yeah, now we can pull from the OG, and then we need to compile the compiler. So I'm just doing this to make sure I have the latest one, and then we build a release build of the compiler. Maybe at some point I'd like to try the what's it called? You know, Odin these days you can use the LLD, the LLVM linker, and also radlink, the rad that comes with the rad debugger. I think it comes with rad debugger, but it's just another linker. But I think that one is not ready yet. But let's see here. We'll put another one. SDK Odin, and we go into bin maybe. You see radlink and LLD link is here. So, and you can use these. I'm not gonna do this now, but it's just something. Wait, is it gonna like if I if you do bead, I think you can do dash LLD or something. Dash rad LLD, yeah. That makes the LLD linker rather than default. Makes it use the LLD linker rather than default, and then I think you can somehow make it use the rad linker. Rad link, yeah. So if you can try that if you're using Odin and you don't want to use MSVC, then you don't have to install Visual Studio, the linker part. You still have to install Windows SDK if you're on Windows, because it can't, you know, it needs those files to do the stuff for Windows. Maybe, I don't know if it will even work without it. I haven't tried it much. I tried it a bit, but maybe someday would be interesting to see if you can just get by just having a Windows SDK installed without any of the other stuff. Because I used to use Rad Debugger and Sublime. So, but that's just as a side. I was just updating the Odin compiler and started talking. So it built a compiler for us. So let's see how this project does. We open Sublime and let's see what's in there. I was looking yesterday at something. So today we're doing some Odin programming, right? We're not doing any of that. Yesterday we did some Jai, because I thought it was fun to try. And yeah, I did my little. You can watch the stream from yesterday. I did a little top-down shooty thingy, just some random stuff. But today we're back doing some Odin. So we have my Sublime project for. Oh, okay, whatever. It's just some syntax file that's missing. I'm trying to find my chat. There it is. I think maybe I should delete if I go here and I delete, I close this and I close this and I remove the Sublime workspace file. The workspace file is in Sublime is not, what's happening? It's not, doesn't have any meaning, I almost said. It's just a cache. Hello Giuseppe. Welcome. So I think this is the project now. Let's see. Oh, can look in the project file, see how it looks in there. Okay, some of these things are wrong because I moved my Odin install to SDK. I thought was a good name. Repos. This is in scraps, I think. Yeah, I just want to check how that looked. So we're gonna go into build system, choose Metroidvania, and then try to build it and see what happens. So we're gonna get some compiler error here because this is an interesting thing to see what has changed over 1 year of like this project has not been touched for 1 year. So what has changed? So one thing is in the Asprite library I use. This is warning. / so in the past you did this to do like file tags. It wasn't changed to this. I actually pull requested in that because I thought you can't have it in a comment. Comments not supposed to do anything, but this clearly did something. So it's like that these days. So we do that and then we go to the next one. This is a bit of a this is a very opinionated thing with Odin. So well, if you used my build file, I think it's a batch file currently, build hot reload in this project. This one uses strict style, and that will make it that's for like enforcing the same coding style as in the what's it called inside, like they used in the core libraries and stuff. So it's just that style. So this is maybe one of the things I don't completely agree with, but I just have started doing it because I like the other things in strict style. It's a bit, I wish maybe it's possible to pick and choose somehow. But this one, I wish there was an option to disable this warning, because I don't, to me there's a curly brace here and therefore there should be an indent, and each case is, I see it as sort of like a little indent of its own, you know? Like I see it as like I know it's not I know these are not scopes really, these, and it's not a real scope either, but mentally I see it as that. But what Odin compiler wants is this, which to me, I often make errors because of this, because I think for some reason I think that this stuff here has to do with this one, so I end up sometimes when I have to copy paste something like this, I end up like doing it incorrectly somehow. Like if it was like this, I might copy paste this or something stupid like that. Anyways, but that's not a big deal. And there's, let's see, another error inside the helpers file in my game. Too few arguments from min, 2 or more are required. What's v? Oh, that's wrong. So this is valid in that. This is not a really, I don't think it's a sensible. I think I use this in the game, but this is not a super sensible thing, because Nino might have holes in it. So it's just min returns like the I think it's the numeric value of the first one, and max is the numeric value of the last one. But if you have holes in there, then this enum is not valid. Maybe there's even a procedure to do this, but regardless, that's not important right now. There was a bug there. For some reason, the compiler update has fixed that. And then, okay, more of these. And there you go, that's it. I waited and so oh, there you go, and then something crashed. Let's see what happened. Okay, there is a little error in the failed initializing symbols, mod not found. That's a fun error. This is something with my I need to switch my I have this let's just make this a bit smaller. I have this solution for cloud backups that gets confused. Like now it's just like conflicted Sublime Workspace. The objective today is get this old prototype to work and see if I was just a bit interested in looking at it again. So this is my old Metroidvaniaish prototype from last year. I just wanted to get it running again. Currently though, it crashes inside somewhere. So let's pull out the debugger. I'm starting to be like, so I don't like working in Visual Studio. I don't like working in VS Code, but I wouldn't mind sort of, the Visual Studio experience with always having a debugger attached. So RadDBG is this is the only one I use now, but I just want to have something that's as good as RadDBG, but with I want Visual Studio, but not sad, but that seems to be too much to ask for. Okay, I think maybe oh, the other one. Wait. Is it? Oh, it was still running. How does this work now again? Disabled. Is this the one that's active? How does it work? I don't know. Whatever. Okay. The thing about RadDBG is sometimes I'm a bit like, is it still running? What's the status? I guess already halted. Okay, it did halt. It's just not completely clear to me that it halted. So we have some kind of thing here. Load game, fail installation mode. Okay, let me see that one. Maybe this one should be like a panic instead. Then it will catch it. There you go. It wasn't a real So we ended up in here. Game DLL name is game0.dll. And I tried to run initialize symbols on that. The API looks like this. So this is my hot reload stuff that's got sad somehow. We shall see what's wrong with it. Game API. Okay. Game init. So usually this would happen because it fails to okay, so it did manage to copy the DLL, right? And then it tried to initialize symbols from it, and then it failed. And it just gives me like mod not found. Is that, what does that mean? Mod not found. What was it? Initialize init symbols. What does this one do? I mean, I know what it does. This is for, so I have some kind of hot reload going on here, and this thing here will initialize the symbols in this API based on the name, based on, and fetch those exports from the thing, from the not so yeah, Smiley says not so hot anymore, is it? No, it's my it's more of sad reload. It tried to start and then it got tired and went to bed again. But we're not doing that here. No, we are having the morning programming. We're not going to bed. We're fixing this. This error is a bit how to say, last failed procedure call. Okay, so it tries to fetch the error and it says mod not found. Let's try this. That's a Windows error kind of. Let's see what that means. Windows mod not found. Okay, or maybe in here mod not found. This text says exactly the same thing but with more words. You need to say what is a module. Is it the DLL? Is it hello? It's okay, let's go to our Stack Overflow post. Okay, it begins with a customer. That means it can't be good. Okay, let's do this. Let's step inside here and see where it fails. That's a much saner idea. Okay, it was just in struct field zipped. Okay, field name. Okay, it's trying to find. I think I should update rad debugger. This seems very old. It doesn't. Okay. I mean, the project compiles, so technically, I think, you know, we're almost there. So just download the. Is that how you do it? You just download the with rad. I guess you just download the release, not any. You don't download the source and be like, haha. Maybe this is the one I have. Oh, not the source code. But yeah, it would be super cool to have a program that, like, I know it's a lot to do, like, okay, we want a nice code editor, that's a lot of work, and we want a nice debugger, that's a lot of work. And it would be nice if they were in the same program, which is the stars aligned, because VS Code is not that great. Visual Studio is certainly not as great. Sublime Text doesn't have the debugger. RadDBG doesn't have the editor part. It's just, yeah. It's just like you're not allowed to be happy. That sounded sad. So they're up to RadDBG. Wow. It's small. I'm gonna find some scaling option. I think I just deleted all my settings because I emptied the folder. I was like, these are just, I guess it's stored settings in there. That's not, can't do that. UI font, code font. No. Use the tab around the corner. How do I make it bigger? Yeah, there is some debugger for Sublime, but it's not. I want something good like the RadDBG, right? So it's I want RadDBG. I just want edit code in it, and with Sublime level of goodness. It's a very tricky thing because the moment you add, you know, Sublime Text just has a nice workflow. If you added all the things from RadDBG, maybe those would also interfere with the workflow. So it's a very walking that path of like putting in all the editor stuff. I haven't tried Zed. Maybe they add debugger support, but I think I looked at the. I don't think they're doing their own debugger, are they? They're just doing a connection. So it's just LLDB or something. Well, I don't think so. Communication between software is probably best. I think a program like Visual Studio can do it, obviously. It's just about doing the. You want an integrated development thing where everything is. Yeah. So I think. Oh. Here we go. Some font size for us. Because I kind of miss sometimes using. I mean, it's not a super big deal for me. Art, cat. No. That's incorrect behavior. What I'm missing from Rad is you can't edit code in it. I mean, I would like, I sit in Sublime Text and I edit and I start a program and it crashes. And then I have to bring out the debugger and start from there. I would like it should always be in the debugger, but then I would have to use VS Code or Visual Studio because otherwise you wouldn't always be in the debugger, right? Like debugger is not. There was like some talk by Eskil Stenberg. I guess Eskil Stenberg. I don't know if he's into Swedish. I don't. He said that debugger should always be attached. Should not be like something you bring out. But he's like uses Visual Studio still, which is fine because he's also doing C. But There we go. Anyways, we updated Rad Debugger. So essentially, I don't think Rad is gonna add code editing. Yeah, but switching is not. Like imagine this. Imagine you have a one-off bug that only happens every now and then. It happens like one in like you would really like to catch it, but you're also working, so you're working in your code editor. And then you're not going to catch it because you're going to get the crash or whatever it is when you're not attached. So you can't like, some bugs are good to catch immediately, and it also is better for the workflow to Vraf says, I like how Radibug looks, so I will learn it. That's always a good judge the book by its cover. Good. No, but it is nice. It's he has written his own renderer in like DirectX to render all the things, and it's very snappy. So it just runs like a video game, kind of. Yeah, so you mean that the run, yeah, maybe you could do so your run command always pops via the debugger. If it's, I mean, RadDBG starts so fast, so maybe that works. Maybe I will want to try that. That's not a bad idea. Okay, now anyways, now we're inside here. Let's see if this, that didn't improve. It didn't get the loop variable I wanted there. Anyways, that's not, I wonder if it gets it in the local, no, what's it called, in the watch window. Field.name. No, it doesn't. But can it not connect to a running? I don't know if it can. But the important thing is at least that you, no matter what, how you always start the game through it, and then even if you get a one-off crash, you still get it immediately in the debugger. Okay, there it crashed out, which is sort of what I think it said it would do. I mean, that's, so load library. Game 0, and I guess that one exists, right? I'm just gonna check so we're not in the wrong working directory. That would be epic if that was the error. Project path, that should work. Main, how to load, start. I mean, that doesn't matter for RadDBG, I realize. And then this one fails. Windows, maybe if you use the correct trap method, you know, I mean, know which one you mean. It's the one that says like cancel, try again, and ignore, and you never know which one. If you press try again, you can get into the debugger, I think. It's the funniest window ever. Because it's not like, I want to debug, please shut down. No, it's try again. Okay, so that fails. Why though? Let's look in the build hot reload script. What does this one do? This one builds this stuff. Raylib, maybe it's a Raylib version mismatch, because no, I don't think so. Because there's no Raylib DLL in here, is there? Well, maybe that's the, but that's not the problem. It would complain. I don't use this silly thing that doesn't complain about it. But let's just try it again. Veterinary. Yeah, dash vet. It means you take your cat to the vet, and you take your compiler to the vet and give it more vaccine or something. But I don't think that's it, because that would be silly. Wait, did I get further? Was it that? Did it somehow fail on me with the... Oh, it works. It was just a missing DLL. Okay. That's interesting. Why did that not pop up on a... Is it because the... mod not found wasn't my it wasn't it couldn't find game.dll, it couldn't find raylib.dll. It was an error from inside game.dll. I would like that to, you know, pop up on the I can't find DLL kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Because the game doesn't reference raylib, so it just blah in there. Oh well. I'll see if I can improve that. Let's see if we can improve that error. I'm just gonna show you quickly what the. So this is what we left off with last time. Can I make this bigger? Yes, I can. Well, let's just actually. Let's just make this a bit bigger. So this is where we left off in August. Have this silly little game with 2 colors where you can jump. And I think there is a button to pop off your head and you can roll around with your head. And stuff. And you can get back. And there's like some little... How did I pop off the head? I don't... Okay, we press A apparently. And then you can roll through here. And stuff. I spent a lot of time on this silly animation, I remember. And I think there's also a nose. Yes, the nose. The nose can push the button. And then you can go through. And then there is a little... I don't know what the pop off the head is supposed to do yet, because... Well, I fell. The nose is obvious, because you can get through a narrow thing like this. The pop off head is a troublesome mechanic, because you go over here, and then you can roll through, and maybe you could do something over here, but then you can also just, you know, make it impossible to come back, and you sort of break the game. I don't know. Maybe if it had some kind of rewind mechanic combined with that, maybe that would be good. Who knows? This jumping seems a bit... yeah, it's also stuttering a bit because of bad frame interpolation stuff. But... Right. So that works. So what I wanted to do is I want to look a bit at this and see, because I was thinking back of the prototypes I did last year, and this is the one that I remembered. Like I did like several silly little games last year, and then I sort of got busy with my book, and this was the last thing I did before the book, I think. And then after the book, I've been trying to do some different things, but nothing's been much fun. So I thought I'll have a second look at this stuff, see if it piqued my interest. So that works now. Before we do anything else, I just want to investigate this mod not found, because the problem here is, like, if I remove this, let's just get that error back there. Let's try to make the error better. What are you making the map with? I think there's an editor. Let's see. Let's bring Rayleigh back. Tarnavask, what are you making the map with? I think, yeah, if you press, it's as usual my own little weird thing here. It's like, ooh. It's like little, this is a Vandu. Apparently not. I think I just started working on a little editor thingy here. I tend to prefer to do that myself, because I think it's fun. And sort of what I do, had done for a living, make editors. But this is barely anything. This is just some tiles. This is lots of work. But yeah. Budget Jim says, hey, I remember this. Yeah, this is of all my prototypes from last year, this was by far the best, I think. Well, it's barely not much to do, but it just was kooky and weird in a funny way. Anyways. Right. Right. So last error, blah blah blah. Can we get? Well, it does panic now. But I would like it to say which error. But this gives me a string. Get last error enum string. Isn't there more to an error than that? Or something? Because I remember, like with DirectX stuff, for example, you can get the error and you just get a little name. And then you can also get like a bigger chunk of text. I was wondering if there is that bigger chunk of text that says arraylib.dll not found, so I can just output that, because then this would make everything much easier. Doesn't seem to be much in here. You see? Format message, all this stuff. Right. Maybe I'll steal this C++ code here, and we'll try to put it in here, and then maybe at some point so we can do a little PR into, because, well, maybe you don't want, because this will need to this would need sort of to do an allocation, because it needs to, let's see what this does. Format message buffer, yeah. I think this whole API, the last error API, is a bit undercooked, because it assumes that you will always get the full error. Well, let's do like this for now. Like that. Return last error full. Well, not yourself, but with the allocator. Maybe. Like that. Good. And then we go here and we just say last error full is a proc string blah blah blah. It takes allocator runtime.allocator, and the lock is a, what is it called? Location. Like that. And then we'll steal this stuff here and we'll delete it stuff here. That should be deleted. Right. So if the error is it 0, that's the return nothing. Right, that. And then we get this. And let's see, what does, we're not going to use format message A, but we're going to use format message W. Blah, 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 blah. So we have some C++ code down here that we are sort of trying to translate over. So we have the, okay, this thing seems to allocate. Can we not do that and tell it to allocate ourselves? Like get like how many characters? Characters. Oh, get message argument array h model blah blah blah. Okay, so you can blah 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 blah. I like this format string. It looks bananas. Anyways. Well, I guess we're letting it allocate for us, and then we will clone it into the string of the allocator, and then blah. I mean, this is a debug procedure. It doesn't have to be the fastest thing in the universe, but still. It's a bit sad. How do I do this? Message buffer. Buffer is a win42.lp. Why is... Hello, Thomas. I'm working on... I was just gonna update my old project. That's... I got my old prototype project around, but then I realized there was a bad error message in how the DLL is loaded, so I was trying to fix it. But now I'm wondering, why doesn't... There's the age-old question. Why doesn't OLS work? Well, I didn't update OLS. That might be why. The age-old question. Why doesn't OLS work? Might fail because OLS might be in use. I would like OLS every time something is wrong. I would like it to pop open something and scream at me with an error message. Instead, it like crashes in the background somewhere or something. Because there seems to be bugs in it sometimes that have been there for a long time, or it'll get like hangs and stuff. There we go. Let's see if that works better. No, it doesn't. Maybe it's because it has so much invalid code in here that it is like, I'm giving up. Because isn't there like an LP Vister? Yeah, this thing is in sys Windows. This just doesn't work. It is enabled. No. Yeah. Oh well, whatever. So we need a wide string instead, right? Because we're using the wide stuff. Or is it just a string 16 these days? No, maybe not. Hello, Bill. I'm complaining about OLS as usual. So Yeah, I guess you can use... I guess you can use CString 16 here, maybe. Let's see. Format message, win32.format message W. Okay. Message from system, message, ignore insert. Oh, well, I don't know what about that, but sure. Let's see what it... Format message W. It's a D word flag, okay. Allocate buffer. Okay, do we at least have these? Okay, we have those. Sometimes maybe, you know, something wouldn't be ported to the... Okay, now this works. No, I don't know. I think it didn't. I think it just, that was a text. It's very easy to think that something works, but it doesn't. All right, that's good. Then it wants a new file name. What do you mean new file name? That's the one that spells as nil. What does that do? New file name. Oh, I looked at the wrong one. I was looking at copy. LP source. So much text in here. DV flags. Where is LP source? There. The location of the message definition. The type of this parent depends upon the set. Okay, so we can probably send it as nil. Mr. Nil. And then message ID. And for this one we used error. Okay, that's because here we send error no, we send error. And then we say, wow, what's this? Wow. Oh no, it's using a macro. Wow, someone ported this. Okay, it's just a little bit shift with something. So this is... Okay. Win32.makelang ID. And then we just... Let's see what we do here. PS. Okay, so we just say win32.lang neutral, win32.sublang default. Okay, everything is... Well, if we're lucky, everything exists. And then we send in the message buffer here. We send a pointer to it. Let's just put that on a new line. Error message buffer. If that's the correct thing to do. We might have to cast that. We'll see. 0. What's that? N size. You can give it a size. Is this the kind of thing where can we not send in the buffer and just... Can we make it return the size it should have? No. If the function fails, if the function succeeds... Oh, well. We'll see. We'll see if we can do that later. Nil again. Like that. And then we just say let's just try this. Strings dot clone. Yeah, this. Yeah, unless it's broken, it doesn't work. he's done. So now this is a wide char, and that's usually. Wait, I wrote about this in my book, didn't I? Then I've forgotten how to do it. But maybe there's some new stuff with the string 16 things. But anyways, I have that somewhere here. Where is it? Output. I wrote about that. I'm just gonna look in my own book because I wrote about it somewhere. Yeah, this needs to be a bit updated actually because of the news. I have that written down for an update that's gonna happen within some time. WString to UTF-8. So this is the one you probably want. And I guess this one either is in a buffer or it allocates, right? And this is in sys window. So we have, oh yeah, that's the one we have. Oops. 32 dot. There will be a lot of annoying allocations here. Oh, well, let's try that. WString to UTF-8, and then we have error message, and we have size, and we can send in the allocator there, and then we'll just try returning that for now. I think that we'll see what it's inside the message, if it's the whole thing or anything. Wait a minute. Maybe now it works. I mean maybe I just need to save. Sometimes it's like that. I think this is supposed to be a cast there. Cannot assign. Okay. So it wants a point. Okay. I think it wants this. All right. Wait, can you do a raw data of a string? No. Wait, of course not, because there's no. But wait, what is it wants? What do you want? CString to pointer to U16. Pointer to a. Okay. CString 60. So the only thing about this CString 16 stuff is that it's slightly harder for me to jump around. And yeah, maybe I just cast the whole thing, because this is just like a pointer, right? So we take out the pointer to that thing, and then we cast it. I was just making sure that it's actually the right thing I have. No procedures. It's probably because this thing expects. Oh, it expects a WString. Okay. Well, that is a CString 16 now. Oh, it's because the return values. Runtime allocation error string, yeah. We just returned res for we just do like this. What's it called? Can you do return or return like that? Maybe? Oh yeah, it blah blah. That. Oh yeah, this is. There's not an error if it is nothing. This just means there's no error in the Win32 stuff. Okay, it just doesn't like my. Oh wait. Wrong thing sent in. Okay, what is it complaining about? Oh wait. No? Yeah. I changed this one, but I didn't actually. Last error full. I didn't change this one. The size is probably not an int, right? No. Expected to return values go on. Oh yeah, just return it. Don't. What was that? Return or return? Some kind of. Right. So now maybe after that little Win32 dance, maybe in main hot reload, we can instead say last error full. Maybe if we're lucky. What did it say? And we don't know because it closed immediately. Project. Extra none. Failed initially. The specific module could not be found. Specified module could not be found. Is that all we got? Was that all? Are you kidding me? Oh, I also forgot to free that thing, but I'm just gonna double check if that's all we got. Did that come from extra none? What do you mean extra none? Who is saying that? It's funny. I want the error dial. I want the stuff that it says. So what the problem here was that raylib.dll was not present, but if another DLL sees that it's not being present, then it gets sad and it doesn't say what was missing, and that's silly. So I was trying to get that to work. Funny how this just became like me being annoyed at allocate buffer argument or back buffer, format message from string, the format message from system. Well, it seems like the error we got out of all that was completely useless. I was thinking it would probably say, it says the module cannot be found instead of saying mod not found. That is extra none, but I think that's just because I messed something up in the something here. So completely useless is what it is. So git reset -- hard. Hello, bye bye. That's, we're gonna ignore that. I was just thinking if I could make a bit better tooling, you know, but no. Right, so let's do something else. I mean, on this project, then try to fix WinAPI. So let's commit this to my little repository first, because it works. Right, and then I was thinking, if I want, let's just have a look around in the code a bit first, like what we have. So we have a hot reload thingy that goes into a game.odin file. That one looks like this. There's probably a game init that does this, and what does it do? It seems to load a world from JSON. That's because we come from our editor. It loads an atlas, so the textures, it uses a single texture. I think this was the project that maybe spawned my atlas builder. Yeah, sets up some font and stuff. Yeah, I remember doing this. This is, if you look at the Atlas Builder GitHub page, it has a project that looks like this, like it's a test sample that looks like this, because I use the same stuff. So it's essentially, I think this thing is like a single draw call. I think we can see that in render doc. If we launch application and we go to blah blah blah, and we go into the blah 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 folder, we go into here, take this one, launch it, sure, and then we press that one, let it run for, open that capture, and you see there's a, if you look at the back buffer here, so there's a clear and then all of it comes at once, and the input to that is this texture here, which has everything in it. Now of course, if you did a UI pass where you want a UI separate, then you would have two dual calls, because then you would be shifting the, you would use, it's sort of, you know, you use a separate camera, so you're probably using separate some kind of projection view matrix stuff, so that would shift it. But this is one draw call now, which is, it doesn't matter if you have one draw call, 3 or 10, but if you have 3000 instead of 3, then it's bad. But it's, you know, it's a good exercise to get it low so that you can keep it under control later. Because it's very easy to be like, I'm just drawing things forever, and then, you know, you're just adding more and more just separate draw calls. This uses raylib currently. We are doing, what are we doing here? Oh, it has some auto reload stuff. This I think is so I can draw in Sprite and it auto reloads. I think there is a, I think that's pretty cool. I think, let's see if that still works. So we can press F1, and you see it says auto reload in the corner here. Then we open a sprite, see if this works. This is exciting. This thing, but I must find a way to disable it. It's just every time I open this program, this opens, and I'm like, is that? I don't know if that's. I guess it's Discord doing that. I don't know. And there I lost my train of thought. Here it is. So, for example, the bush is here. For some reason, it has painted in, and I think. Oh yeah, it did work. It was slow. So I can paint in here. You can see how things are happening. You see the wind. I can like paint in a little extra thing here. Save, and it does something there, and then it pops up there. It's not super fast because it does the reload by running the Atlas builder, which might change the metadata in an Odin file. So it also recompiles the game DLL, reloads that, and then also reloads the texture. That in theory it could many times only do the texture reload, like it could just run the Atlas builder, do the texture reload. But currently it runs build hot reload. Let's see if we can build hot reload. It should be able to just like, okay, and that triggers a whole reload where it also reloads the texture. I think hot reloaded. Yeah, you see this stuff here. So what if we do this? I wonder how fast it would. Now I'm just curiously doing things in my code. If reload error is 0, return true. Okay, let's just try doing this. And then instead of that stuff, we take Odin run Atlas builder. Let's just run it like that. This doesn't matter. Like that. Compile that. Maybe. Did that work? Let's see how if it's any faster, or if it works at all. Wait. Oh, he's stuck in a loop. Poor guy. I think I know why. It's because the modification file versions. Let's just hold this for now. Close. This is atlas.odin file. Is it in here? No. File version. Okay, it just doesn't exist. Where is that? What's up with my... Why doesn't it find these? Well, maybe because a global variable. So there's a modification time on here. And I think if we just do this, f dot modification time equals mod, then it will work. Maybe. Boop. Okay, there's the guy. Turn on auto reload for that. See how if this is any faster now. Yeah, there you go. That was fast. That's sort of what you want. So you can probably have two reload modes. One where because you might be changing the size or change the layout in the Atlas, and then you need to do the reload because it needs the new metadata. But for these kind of things, it doesn't really need it. We could like that's pretty cool. See, and the nice thing about that is you could, in theory, like have the game just over here, and you can sit and sort of like paint a big tree or something and just work on it and just look how it looks in game in the scene, and you don't need to like switch window, press refresh, and that's the main use of it. So that's pretty cool that it works. Yeah, this probably needs two different it probably needs two different ways to operate. One that is just runs the Atlas builder, and one that does the full reload, because it's well, yeah, it could auto detect if expensive reloads are needed by checking if the it could check if the stuff from the Atlas, if all this data is identical, which means the layout of the stuff in Atlas, if that's all identical, which is that all the contents of Atlas textures is the same, including the positions of them. All the glyphs in here are the same. These glyphs are, by the way, it's a bit of a the Atlas stuff I think could use in a game. The glyphs, the fonts that are baked into Atlas, it's more of a proof of concept, because you probably want some other font solution, and you get just a bitmap font, and it's a bit blah. And then you have the tiles, so you could check that. But the problem with that is that you would need to load the new file. I guess you could just hash the atlas.odin instead. Compare. Has atlas.odin changed? Yes, no. Yeah, hash the whole file. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Which of course is it's not going to be slow, I think, to hash the whole file. Yeah, we can do that just to make sure this, because then you can do the old. What is this? Oh yeah, this one just returns true here. Yeah, the tricky part is more that it can do this, but then it also needs to do a full reload with a full recompile. So it, okay, we can try that. We can try doing this. Atlas metadata hash is Atlas metadata Atlas meta hash. How do I hash a file? I mean, there is a built-in way in Odin to hash a file, but at compile time, which would be the old one, which is fine for is it like this? And then it's a bit like, where am I currently? Well, game/atlas.odin, I think. No, because I'm already in here. Wait, how? I've forgotten how it works. I have it in the book as well somewhere. No. Load hash. Ah, okay, it wants a method of hashing. Like that this link is broken. Do that, maybe. Ah, here we go. These are the available ones. We can do a I like a good murmur 64. Oh, it's because the fragment. You're right. It's probably, or maybe it's just, yeah, the the name. Oh, it's just above actually. So that's fine. Yeah, I was clicking here and I was like, I didn't. Wait, maybe it did work. No, it didn't. It's a funny. I wonder if it's like, can you do that? No. Anyways, it's a bug in the website generator. Okay, this is for a string literal. That's fine. We're not gonna use that for the. But then we have the. Let's just see what that is, so we make sure we get something. Apparently we don't have. Oh. Yeah, we're getting a hash, all right. Good, that means it succeeded. Because that one will, this one will these things are a bit tricky to think about sometimes, because you're like, wait, when does it do this hash? But this is at compile time, so this is for the one that was the same as when this one was compiled. Then we of course need to load this file again now, in case the modification time of one of the resources, which the file versions is this file version. These are the files we're monitoring, right? If any of those change, then we need to do a full reload. You know what? Isn't this a bit overkill? Because we have like, can't I press like, isn't there a key I can press to reload the game? Force reload. Yeah, this one will, I can press F5. So I could just do this, and if I see that textures are messed up, then well, okay, let's just try this. Do we have OS? Yes. I guess we need to read the whole file. And this here is a bit funny, because this one is relative to the code, this one is relative to where the executable is, which would be like that. And then we need to hash it somehow. This murmur 64 here, I wonder which one it uses, because there's two murmur 64. Interesting. This is in core hash. Import core hash. So if it managed to do a run this thing, then we then we read the whole atlas, the new one. If we fail to read it, then we can do the old thing and do a full what is this one? Exit. Then we can do this instead. Return true. Return true is just that it should keep running the game. That doesn't mean it's just game update returns false when it should stop. Okay. The bastard over there asks, do you tend to create different classes for players, enemies, pickups, or do you go with more like a fat struct? I don't remember what this one does currently. Currently it has some kind of fat struct. It's good. I didn't work on this since August, so but it seems like it has some kind of, there's a player, body, head, button, door currently. We'll see if that, we'll see how that goes. Right, so hash.murmur64a of atlas contents with that seed, I guess. If that one is equal to atlas metadata hash. Then we do that stuff. Contents. Well, it did something. Okay, let's restart everything. Have a look. Okay, so now it's an auto reload. We open a sprite. We turn this thing into a, okay, I need another palette. Change that one. Change that one to this. Wait. That worked, and that was a fast reload. We can see that in the log because there wasn't lots of weird stuff going on. However, if we change the size of this sprite, then I think it would. We do this and do this. There you go. There was a full reload there. That seems that worked. It's a bit tricky to see if it works or not, but it's essentially if this might trigger a full reload too, because that one changes in size, because I think it clips the, I don't know why there's a background in here, but there are lots of strange things in here. But anyways, as long as you keep within here and just edit it like that, then just as a quick reload, and you can just, you could open like the, I think there's a tile set also here. You could do like erase a bit in there, maybe reload, and then you see it just ends up there. And do that. Where's the thing I'm standing on here? Like we could like make it, we can paint up like that, maybe save, and you boop. I mean, it's gonna be a bit slower the more textures we have, but, and what this thing does is it read this is a bit of a pipeline of things. So it goes in textures folder. This has A sprite folders, and it checks if those have changed, and then it will run the Atlas builder, which is a program I've written that uses Blob. It has made this A-sprite loader that loads an A-sprite file, and then I like get the data out of the A-sprite file using that, so I don't have to do an export, and I don't have to have a JSON file because you can just read the data out of it. And then it also outputs the metadata file that contains information about what's inside. So that's what atlas.odin is. I have this. If you're interested in the Atlas builder, then I have it on my here. Hello, Valorzard. It's here if you want. You see, this is the same thing, but this is just, I took the same things and put them in a mini project, and it shows two draw calls, one with the background tiles and text and the animation, and then with this. Right. Okay, so that's cool. Let's keep that because I think it's that to me is useful. It's a useful workflow thingy. FMT, I don't think we need anymore. All right. Screenshot. Need to update change Railib so it can't screenshot. So feature in Railib, that is screenshot stuff. Game, what are we doing? Auto reload, only reload Atlas if metadata didn't change. These are my favorite things of like not using game engines off the shelf, that you can do this kind of workflows, like that I could specifically target A-sprite and have the raw A-sprite file. Like it's a very compact pipeline of things. Okay. So next thing I was thinking about is something a bit more fun for the game graphics programming people. So I was thinking that we're gonna I was thinking that if I ever want to make a proper game out of this, then I should probably not directly use Railib, because I did have problems with Railib when shipping Cat and Onion. It's not I shipped the game. It's fine. You can do that. It was just, if you think about maintainability of it in the long run, maybe, or porting it to a platform that doesn't have Railib, which is, or actually all platforms have Railib, kind of now. But it's almost a joke at this point that, oh, does it really work on this platform? But it would be nicer to sort of have my own graphics layer, kind of. It's also, I mean, I guess this is something that I have, in the past I always tried to write like a super hardcore renderer when I'm doing stuff like that. That's not what we want to do here. We just want I'm quite happy with the functionality of Railib. I would just like to not call any Railib code directly in my code so that I could swap it out or put something else. And maybe I will eventually then swap out Railib because then I can have like a pure Odin implementation or something. So it's a bit easier to maintain in the future. But if we look here, we have vendor raylib here, and that stuff just I mean, we do some rl dot blah 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 here. We don't do a whole lot of raylib in here, I think. Well, okay, we do quite a lot. So then I'm thinking that maybe we just start by trying to put this into a separate little graphics package thingy. This I did watch was also, I don't mention it once this stream. I did watch Eskil's building large projects, and the YouTube talk. If it was quite nice. I'll link it. Let's see. So this guy made this little thing. It's quite good. I mean, I know about many of the things. He likes plug-in, like for big projects, he likes plug-in architectures. Like if I made like a proper game engine, or like if I made something like Photoshop, you know, then I would probably use a plug-in architecture. For a game like this, probably not a good idea, because you're working on it yourself and you want a bit more. You don't need a flexibility of plugins at that point. However, he's also talking about in it about the having like owning your own platform layer codes and like your graphics layer code. So he just has written his own little graphics layer code that runs on different things. And that stuff I think is good. And that doesn't need to be like, you don't need to build a whole like super duper game engine. You can just make your own thing that implements these things. And you could start with just wrapping raylib, but changing the API in a way that you like, and then you can work on the API a bit. But yeah, you can, I'll link this one in the chat. It's quite good. Anyways, so let's think a bit about that. So what are we actually using from raylib here? RL dot. So we have some, we check for some key presses, we load some textures, we get some glyphs, we set some config flags on it before we create a window, we get the screen height, we begin drawing, and then I think in entity maybe it here it draws with using raylib. So there's a bit of raylib everywhere essentially. But yeah, so let's think a bit about that. How would we do our own little layer? Yeah, the John Blow's simple graphics drawing library in Jai. Yeah, that one I quite quickly ran into like limitations with that, I think. So I can see why that would be nice to swap. But yeah. So let's make a separate package in here first. And what we're gonna it's very cute. Eskil Stenberg in his talk, you see his different sort of his different platform layers. Oh, I hate this. I need to change my. I say this every time. I need to change my cloud backup thingy I use, what's it called? P-Cloud. And it's just like, you see that how I created this and then it deselected it because it makes the whole, when you create it, it makes the whole folder sort of, it syncs it and then it just removes files and it causes conflicts and it's terrible. But yeah. Anyways, don't use P-Cloud unless you're like if you, especially if you do programming and you, I just wanted a good backup solution that just backed up like my whole projects folder. I know I have it on GitHub, but I want like the state of my computer. But it's just messing with you, especially if you do programming and you kind of like quickly adding a file and swapping it out. Maybe you have a loop that's writing a file and removing it, and then it's just like, it's just lots of conflicts. I'm like, no, you're just not keeping up with what's happening. So anyway, Eskil Stenberg has lots of cute names on his packages. They're called stuff like, I don't remember what they're called, but they're called things like permeability. You know, like cool. You can't spell don't use P-Cloud without use P-Cloud. No, usage, not P-Cloud. Anyways, so I was just thinking we can have some kind of rendering stuff here. I'm a bit like, should we do the rendering with the input? Like essentially something that wraps the whole of Raylib, or should it be more split up? If we look at Raylib, it's lots of window things, of course, some drawing, some things to do some math that's not really, doesn't have anything to do with rendering per se. It doesn't do anything on it's just because it uses the same conventions as Raylib, so it's useful. Get target FPS, and then there's some random, like those things you don't need. Get file data, don't need. Get file extension. And then it's the input. I would say Raylib, it's like three things. It's drawing plus opening window. That's actually, opening window and drawing is not the same thing usually. Like, but you can clump them up if you want to. So there's drawing, input, and audio, I would say. That's the things. Then it does do some things like on CPU image stuff, but that I don't really use. Loads fonts, nah. Text, draw, generate meshes. And there's some 3D stuff that I absolutely don't use. Right. So I'm just thinking what this should be. There's a fly in here. Yeah, I know it depends on what I'm trying to figure out the separation. Like the math things I'm not gonna have in there because those I have mostly in Odin, in like core, and maybe have some of my own. There's a very annoying fly in here. What are you doing? Where are you, fly? Are you a wasp? I think you're a fly. But I'm thinking more that it's the music stuff certainly wouldn't be in there, the sound stuff, because that would come from something else, I think. I'm just having a hard time deciding. Both of them, it needs a name and then it needs like kind of what it contains. Let's call it just KL as in carlib for now, because we're just gonna move things in there. And then I might split it out later. So currently we're just gonna try to do like a little raylib wrapper-ish thing. And then we'll see what happens. So we're just gonna go here and be like rl dot, well, let's just do something simple first, like init window. Let's see here. So we have set config flags resizable and vsync hint. So when you're doing these kind of things, of course, I shouldn't look at the raylib API and try to copy that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to do something that makes sense for me. And with these kind of things, it's more important that you make a sensible API than that you well, I don't know what I'm saying. I was just like zoning out. Anyways, we can try like open window is a proc that takes width, height, and title. Width, height, I don't know. Width an int, height is an int, title is a string. And then it return, well, and that's, you know, that's already the question, like, okay, that's already like, does this return some kind of window thing, or do you want it to be single window? I don't really care about having two windows, but on the other hand, it's nice to not have global data inside the layer, but then it's also a bit more annoying to use. So let's maybe do like that first, and in here for now we can import. What is it called? Import. I was like hashtag. That was a bit of a jive thing there, I think. Import core. And Ahmed asks, what's the email to ask a jive beta access? I posted it in the previous stream somewhere. You can scroll through and look in the chat history. Vendor raylib. So let's just do this for now. rl dot. Okay, let's take these guys, toss them in here. width, height. These are all we're gonna have some casting going on here. That's fine. Int height, and then we're also gonna have to do this needs a CString. This is always a problem here. Like, what do you do with your strings? In this case, like, do you accept an allocator here because you need to convert it? Do you just use the temp allocator? In my case, I would just use temp allocator because that works for me. But sometimes, especially in the core libraries, is that if you use the temp allocator in a sort of haphazard way, it can put things on the temp allocator that the person, right, who calls the thing doesn't expect. So there's like temp allocator guards and stuff in the core libraries. But yeah. Can do like this. Something like that. Oh, that's not int, it's c.int maybe. Import. Well, let's just do u32, it should be fine. Right, this doesn't even. Oh, i32. This thing doesn't even, it's not imported right now, but we'll just import it. We can import it next to here, import kl carlib. That. And then in init window, maybe we can do kl.open window, and we can say do 1080, and we can say Metroidvaniaish. That should still work, I think. Let's do a full restart here. Yeah, it still works fine. The idea here is that you can keep doing this, and initially it might be like a wrapper, but it'll be a wrapper with your own API, and then you can try swapping it out for another graphics API or something if you don't like Raylib. Yeah, which is sort of what I'm interested in doing. That's sort of why I'm doing it, because it would be interesting to try to do sort of what Raylib does, but only the things I need, and then do it maybe with a more platform specific API. Like maybe I'll use Direct3D 11 or something. Who knows? So we have that. Then we can, this I don't need, rl.load texture. So here is like, okay, what's a texture? Well, this API thing is interesting, because this thing here just becomes an implicit API, like you say. It's just like, okay, you can use the open window procedure. It's maybe nicer if you have an explicit API in a sense, because it can be nice if you have an explicit API. So one thing about Odin, right, it doesn't have the header files. And that's good most of the time, but for making an API, a header file is like, you can very easily, like, the stuff in this header file is the API, we don't change, they don't go accidentally and change it, which is good. So with Odin it's more a bit like, oh, these all the files, they're just exported things everywhere. But I don't really need the like hot swappable implementation. Like I don't need to have like a DLL with one implementation and change to another, really. It was just like you can have different implementations of the stuff behind it. But yeah, in the I was doing some kind of experiments with sort of like a game engine thingy like a few weeks ago. What is it? Here. And in this one I did sort of a plugin thingy, and it here's a mock-up Direct3D 12 renderer, and it sort of like has this API struct in there, so you can import this package and then get the API, and this stuff is sort of like a header, right? And this is yeah, this would be your header-ish thing. But that doesn't play that well with like but yeah, so the defense of header files here is just that it's an easy way. Like in a header file you would just have open window, and then you would have draw rectangle, blah 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 blah, and all of them are there, and you don't go there and change them. But if you have like stuff like this, then you're like, oh, you know, this is some code in my Fang, so I changed, I removed that parameter. So because it's just some code, it's there's no blessed. I mean, you can make an API.odin file that calls package private, like, but then yeah, it's a bit, how to say, headers are not nice within a project, because like, or having this or importing that header files and stuff. But when you make like, oh, here's sort of like a library and it's supposed to have a very strict API, then it's good. Also, you know, in Odin, if you want to load a DLL with something in it, and you want to get some stuff like the API out of there, there's currently no way to do that, really. Like you would have to manually fetch the things, or write, like I did here, write this kind of API file like this, and then match these up with things inside the thing, the DLL. There's no sort of, you can import packages and then just use them, but if you have just a DLL, then you won't have any like interface into it, and that's sort of, headers happen to also solve that problem. But I wouldn't want headers in Odin. That it would ruin everything. But there is, there is something there where it doesn't feel like, especially if you interface other languages or you want to have loadable things. Hello, Aku. Yeah, I don't know what it's missing really, but it's just making. Yeah, I'm not saying they should be added. I'm saying it's it is a problem when you write. It is a problem when you trying to write something that should have a, like, this is the API I made, and I want to make sure. I just want to make sure that there is an easy to read API, which you could solve with documentation, but I don't read documentation. I just look at the code usually. And then also because it sort of makes that file a bit blessed, so it's like, don't touch this, don't mess with this. Yeah, and it's funny with Railibbrite because we have in Odin we have the foreign interface for Railib, and this is, you could make foreign interface for you could make like an Odin calling convention here and use this as a sort of a header file, right, for an Odin package. So that you could do. But then it just feels a bit like it's a bit weird, right? Because in C you have the header, and you can use that when you're just importing the thing, or you can use the header when if you're, for example, loading a DLL and want to get the list of the things inside there. In Odin you have the package system and you want to use that. You don't want to use something like the foreign function interface with an Odin calling convention and blah blah blah. You don't want to use that because it's just so much extra work, but then you don't get your sort of API. It's sort of like, it's funny because Odin forces you to do lots of things in like, it's very opinionated, like, oh, do this because it's good. In this case it's like, oh, we don't have those kind of interfaces, which makes writing, it's not like C sort of forces you to write the header and then making a library out of it for any kind of, for interfacing with any language becomes easy. You know what you can do, Ahmed, instead of doing that? You can put import C++ files. So you can have main.cpp import all the other CPP files and don't have any headers. That's that's what people call the badly named term Unity build. I think the Odin compiler is written like that. So if you go here into SDK, Odin, source. Yeah, okay, so that's what you do. Okay, I thought you meant that you. Yeah, for those who haven't seen this. So here's the Odin main.cpp, and it just like imports some headers, but mostly of these are C++ files. So it all just becomes like, you can just think of it like main.cpp includes lots of C++ files, so it sort of becomes like one, after the preprocessor has run, it becomes like one giant C++ file that just compiles. And then you can use that to sort of bring everything together, and if you want to make an API, then you can use an header. which is, I think, the Odin package system. I mean, it's inspired by Go, but it's also sort of the same thing as that. Everything in the, but it's implicit. Everything in a folder automatically becomes part of the same thing. But there's no headers to document some kind of API or something. Anyways, I'm not really sure how this is. I haven't really tried doing my own libraries in this sense. Like, I've made some libraries, but I haven't thought too much about this API stability thing in Odin. Yeah, the Odin doc generator is built into the compiler, I think. I think I wrote Odin doc. Yeah, generates documentation from a directory of Odin files. So you can look at how the you can probably look at the documentation of that one, and that one builds the docs for the for everything. I think you can, for example, do like this, or go into core Odin doc strings, and then it return. This, I think, returns raw text. Maybe we can I think maybe this doesn't do HTML. Maybe you have to do that conversion somehow. Or does it? No. I haven't really used this much, but what's this one do? One fails. Bug in the. Interesting. Yeah, whatever. I was just playing around. But yeah, I don't read documentation. I don't want to have like a separate file with here is the documentation. I guess it might be a tooling problem. Maybe you could have like, you have an API and you have a CI that is like, oh, you changed the API, and then it screams at you. Anyways, that was my little rant about, or whatever it was, about making APIs in Odin. How it, like, yeah, it feels like I don't want to make an API struct, because I just want to import the package. But I also want a stable API. And I don't want to use the foreign system, because then I have to make a header. But on the other hand, what I'm saying is that I'm lazy. Because if I did something like this, that's what making the API is, right? Making the API usually means that you have to write it separately somewhere else and then adhere to it. That's what you need to do. It will be an extra step of things. But you can't generate it. Well, you can, but then if you change the if you generate it from something, then you have the same problem again, that you can just change the source and then it changes the API. So it's this funny problem where it's so nice with the way Odin does things, so that writing some kind of stable API like this, where it's explicitly defined, becomes annoying. Now proc groups doesn't help. It's more that, so say that I'm making Rayleigh but in Odin, for example. So then I have init window. If it's just in a file, like if it's just this file here, it looks like it doesn't look like blessed code that's in an API. It's just a file, and I might go in and change something, and then I've changed the API. And if you want a stable API and that doesn't change, then it's nice to have, like in C you have the header, and you can like just diff the header and like, oh, something changed in the main API header. That's curious. But yeah, you could maybe do it with tooling, where you have like, you parse all exported symbols from a package, and then you check if anything has changed. And if anything has changed, you say hello. But yeah, it's but maybe that's a me problem also, because I like looking at code. I don't like looking at documentation files that much. But yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing. Yeah, the one in Rayleigh is distinct, but you can do like that, I think, since it's compatible but not but distinct. No, I'm only concerned about the signature. That, I mean, the API is only this, right? The user, to the user, it's the same thing, and then you can change it under the hood what it does. Of course, what it does, it matters for if you're debugging it and stuff. But the most important thing, if you make an API, is that the signature doesn't change, because then you've broken everyone's code who use it. But if you change like the way something is done inside it, as long as the end result is the same, but yeah, it's I guess I could have like a sometimes in Odin also, because you have maybe you have several platform implementations, so maybe you have something like this, width, height, title. Maybe you do something like that, and then it sort of passes that on. But that just becomes like then your whole API just becomes this big wrapper of underscored things. It's also a bit weird. Anyways, lots of talking, very little work. Have a nice day, Ferins. Yeah, you know, I see, oh, here's a font. That's the first thing in the file, and I'm like, oh, here's a font. Okay, what should? It's very easy to be like, okay, I just copy everything from Raylib, and then I just made a giant Raylib wrapper, which is a start, but it's base size, blah 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 blah. What is a font? Yeah. What is a font? I think maybe I would never use anything that's not a for now. Maybe I'll do something like this. That another thing about APIs in C is that it's easier to make them sort of into more opaque. I've worked on projects where we did plugins, and the plugins sort of like you could have more like stuff like this. Font is a struct, and then it's like make font blah blah. It returns a font. That sort of an opaque API. This kind of stuff is it's interesting. It's two very different ideas of how to design APIs. Like how much of a black box should they be? Like in C, you can easily have like a type def struct from something blah blah blah, and you just use that. This is the same thing, but if this file lives inside the package, then this name is not the same. So then I would have to maybe have like you know, there would need to be like another font that is cast to. But when they live in the same package like that, it becomes a bit like, wow. Like if you even if you name this file to API or something, it's just unfortunate that I can't have like well, let's play around with it a bit, see what we get. Guess the open window could have a different signature. Yeah, that's underscore. Yeah. It could probably. And for the fonts, I would probably do like an SDF font and stuff. Yeah, this is a hard problem in API design in general. Yeah, I think the problem here is that the Odin package system is nice for importing Odin packages as they are just from a folder. When you want to go outside and maybe make an API with some opaque structs, then there will be some problems in the global package namespace, for example, with like you have a font struct there, and if you want that one to be opaque, then well, you can just have two different ones and cast. That's fine. It just goes a bit against how you usually use packages. It's like there's not a clear like, oh, this is a normal package that's imported as a package and you just use everything within it, and this one is more imported more as sort of a black box API. Build as a DLL and provide a C header file. Yeah, you can build it as a DLL and provide an Odin foreign interface with Odin calling convention. That's completely possible. Like, you can do this stuff. But that's just a weird thing, right? Because if you put this library up, then people would be like, no, I expected a sort of Odin core style way of just things just being, you know, I just import it and it works. I don't want to build it before and then blah, 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 blah. Because if you have something like this, then you would have like a library file, maybe you have a library file and it would link to that. And here's your thing. I mean, you can put Odin here and it would work fine. I'm not like, imagine if this was an Odin library. I mean, you could do that. But then people who just want to use it as a normal package would be like, you know, people would be like, what are you doing? Why have you done like this? And I'm like, well, it's to force myself to have this file for a stable API. And if you don't have this file for a stable API, then you're back here, and then you have this kind of like file of stuff. So, but maybe it is a tooling thing. Maybe there's an interesting problem here where that we could solve. That let's not talk about Rust, shall we? No, but I think you could probably parse this file and look at the things, and you can like get this thing, the signature of the exported procedures, and you can generate a hash from it all or something, and then be like, oh, this API is identical. And if something changes, then you're like in the CI, and you say like, hello, something is changed. What did you do? And that way you can be like, and you would maybe you would put export on the things that you want in the API. That doesn't really apply to Odin procedures, but if you ever make it into a DLL, that would be needed. And then you can also use that to generate. You can also use that to generate a foreign interface file for if you want to use it as a DLL or something. Hashtag deprecate. No? Why? Maybe that's a good idea. API open window. Yeah, but I want it to be nice to use as an Odin package without any. Mm. In any case, I think some kind of you can use the so there's a inside if you import not gonna import that here, but if you import this one or like the parser or something or the ast, you can. I've done this in another project. You can look through the. You can read a package and you can look through the exported symbols and stuff, and you can probably make an API verification tool, and then when you're happy with your, maybe you have like a API version, and you can say that one is like 1, and and then you have an API version hash or something, and that's some number, and this will be the hash that comes out of the that will make it this will be the hash that's like, you know, all the different signatures, and then when you're happy with your new one, to make the CI not scream at you on like your GitHub page, then you rerun that hashing thing, you put the number in here and you increment that, and or you maybe you have a separate file with like API, I don't know, because I guess this number here doesn't really. Yeah, it's just some random ideas for how to do it without having to introduce lots of. It's more of a tooling problem. So I think that's an interesting area. Like, we don't have header files, but what can we do to make it nice? And then you can generate docs for people who want like a nice list of things. Ferins asks, what makes it okay to replace OS with OS2? There's going to be things which break between versions. Yeah, but that's because Odin is not Odin is not 1.0. It's not like a final product or anything, right? It's still a work in progress, so things will break. It's not done yet. So the language, like you wizard says, the syntax is mostly fixed, and many of the language features won't change, but things in the core library might still change, and maybe some language features. But yeah, it's a fairly stable language for being work in progress, I would say. But of course but if you put up a library on GitHub and it gets like, you know, 10 million people using it, and you just suddenly change the API, and you like, it's supposed to be like, oh, this is like, you can do breaking changes. Maybe quite often people be like, oh, we only make breaking changes when we do like major API version updates or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's just some things I think about. Okay, let's see here if we can do something interesting. Maybe we can do something with the font that gives a sort of an opaque font or something. Font. Where do we init? This just turned into like my my big Odin philosophy stream. Sometimes it's like, okay, we removed headers, what we can do instead, and then you're like, oh, maybe we can solve it with tooling, and maybe that's correct, and maybe that will be better. Unfortunately, the coffee cup is empty, so. But we'll try to look at some of these editor thing, these font things first, because, or maybe there's some other thing we can look at. I'm thinking we could do it with texture instead, maybe, because that's a bit more. Let's try that. And skip the font for now because it's less interesting. Oh, thank you, UI wizard. Texture. I mean, it's nice in Raylib that you can just, that there is a texture that's like this, right? And to be honest, there is a bit of a nice, reasonable level of black boxness in Raylib where you have the ID here is what OpenGL does, but then you could replace that with something else. And then the height, the width, like stuff that's reasonable to have on your texture struct. This is very small. It's just a few ints and an enum and a identifier, so there's no big image data in there. So that's I'm like, oh, maybe I could look at the texture, and then I'm like, wait, texture is bit. Maybe this is sort of what I would like. But actually, maybe it's better to like, instead of this kind of ID here, you have some kind of handle into like a array of things inside the implementation. And then, so this would be like, you know, like something like that. And then the other things are things that are completely, well, the MIP, yeah, MIP maps. So that's a good question, what that is. So if we say that a texture is a struct, let's just copy the Railib layout, because it's not unreasonable. It's just width is an int, right? It's just what should it be? What's the ID of a text? It's just a number, really. But I was thinking more if it was like you start like that. And a texture handle is what? Let's just say it's an int for now. I was just thinking here, like if you had a Railib version, how would that be? In Odin, you can only do like platform specific file overrides. You can't be like, oh, this is for the Railib compilation flag. You would have to have it in a separate package and bring that in using an API kind of. So then you would have like essentially you would need like a backend API that is like a struct. Good morning. So maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want like maybe what you want is an API with a backend that where the backends comes from different packages or something. Something like that. Okay, so we want to load this one using load texture. So I'm just playing around, like playing around with how to design APIs in Odin. Because I've been thinking a bit more about it recently because of doing the plugin based stuff for the other project where I sort of generated API files, and then I realized maybe that's not so good, because then the API file will just change randomly. And then I'm like, okay, so what's the good way to do this? And texture handle here then is just an integer right now. And I was thinking that it would be sort of like behind this integer is sort of a handle into an array of raylib textures or something. So you would do something like this. And this is something like when you make the API, you want to use Odin strings. So then when you have to feed into CString, or you pass it as a CString, you will naturally have to do some kind of conversion. It's just, you might later have some libraries where you don't need to do that. So you can't just assume that, you can't just do this, because then you're going to end up in trouble in other cases. So it's better to do the most Odin thing for the API, and then just, in this case, we're just temp allocating the CString. No, the reason I do that is it's the same thing. I'm just trying to see if I can make like an API wrapper for raylib. So I'm just playing around. So that's why the color is wrapped like this, because it's my definition of a color. So eventually there would be, the person who uses this would see like maybe this stuff. There is no raylib. It's more of a curious expedition of mine than anything right now. So we have the texture there. The raylib texture will be valid if you can do something like texture load error is an enum. Then you say none, or you say, well, raylib doesn't really have a, And this is the thing again. Here is very like, okay, you're like, okay, I look at Raylib load texture. You're like, oh, the only way to know in Raylib if it worked, I think, is that you look at the ID if it's set. Maybe there's some more, but I think that's it. So you have a true false. Did it work or not? So I mean, you could then look at the Raylib API and be like, I guess for our error we're trying to define here in the Raylib agnostic layer, I guess that one is just like failed. You know, if you did that, okay. And then you have your like, okay, if, you know, maybe you put your error here. You have texture and your texture load error. If text.id equals 0, then return empty and dot failed. Otherwise you return something else. However, this is weird because what you've done now is that you've made your API after, like you've constructed it after Raylib, so you're not really being Raylib agnostic, but because there's probably lots of more errors that could happen here that might be interesting. It's like file not found, and then maybe there's like one more can go wrong. There's some kind of contents error, invalid format maybe. Those are free. That's a bit more reasonable, right? You might not be able to do this in, and then you have to think about how would I implement this. Like either you could have it that you never get final found in Raylib because it doesn't distinguish between them. Or you can check if the file actually exists. Like you can do like if, or whatever it is. Whatever it is. Yeah, file name is not, and then you like return file note. So you can do that if you want to. You think of it as it's your API. You're not trying to wrap Raylib and represent Raylib in the most perfect way. Like you should think of, okay, what do I want as a reasonable error when loading a texture? Do I want an error at all? Like you could, of course, you can do the thing where the Raylib does, where you just get a texture and then where you just get a texture and you check the ID. If it's 0, it failed. But yeah. So maybe we do that. And then the idea texture handle. So I was thinking here is that maybe inside, so this is still sort of in the API here, but maybe in the, if we split this up a bit more, but let's not do that just now, but maybe we have like a textures is a, for now let's put it as this will be a bit of a problem with reallocations, but let's just do like that. Yeah, you can store it as a linked list. I'm not sure how useful it is. Like, what's the next, like, it's not like I need to iterate over all textures as a linked list in the game. Like, you're like, oh, here's my player character. And then, like, Oh, here's a random UI button. It doesn't. Like that, and then you append it to textures, the text, then you return ID is text ID, and width is text.width with an integer slapped on. Height is. The important thing with making the API is that it's, you know, I would like to use ints, and I would like to use the types that makes it comfortable to use from Odin code. Like, you don't, just because Raylib uses C integer, it doesn't mean that you should do it, because then again you're not making your own API, you're mimicking Raylib, and then if you make a, like, in other implementations you're gonna have to do other casts anyway, so there's no problem there's a cast here. That's good, because that means that you decided what it should be. Let's see how this did. Return to, oh yeah, of course. There's no error. Right. So maybe we can try using our brand new load texture. We're just trying to see how things can be done. Game is in here we have a kl.texture. I'm not saying it's going to be called KL. I mean, it's just something I put in order to have a separate thing. Right, now we have some compilation errors, probably. Bam. Update globals. Okay, there's an atlas is, yeah, there's a little thing like that. Draw texture rec. Okay, so now we're going to have a bunch of places where we used atlas. It's going to be angry at us. So we could do something like, let's put this guy up here. We could do something like draw texture rect. I guess that's the one we use the most. Draw texture rect. I don't like a rec. It's weird. Text is a texture. Yeah, then we need some kind of concept of a rectangle. What's that? Well, I would say that it is a struct that has x, y, ref32s. This is a bit controversial, maybe. Like, does your library need like support for f64, or is that a configuration option? What it means, but width, height are f32s. One thing I did, I was doing some Jai the other day. Then I did this. So this is not Odin. I mean, this is Odin, but in Jai I did this funny thing. Place x, and then I was like, pos is a vector2. That's uninitialized. It was quite cool, because then I could get this. I guess I could maybe do that with an like if I had like a using union. Wait, then no, wait, can't you just do this? No, yeah. So I could do like vec2 is 2 of f32, right? And I could do like using pos vec2. That would work. But then I couldn't do the same for these, because they would end up, I don't even know if you can do that on an array, actually. I don't think so. Maybe you can make vec into a union and have, maybe that's, yeah, it's a bit It's just nice. So there's those moments when you want to use a rect as a vector, or you want to use it as 4 numbers. But anyways, this is identical to a raylib rectangle, by the way. So, do we need a Victor 2 color? No, I would probably keep it at F32, but yeah, the F64 stuff is it is a common like problem with different game engines and libraries and stuff, that they're like, oh, I want F64 support, and they're like, haha. Anyways, so in this case we can check also we need maybe I'll make this into a handle map later or something. I like my handle based maps. If length of textures is 0, then we append textures texture nothing. The reason that I do that is otherwise you can't use the 0 index as a error. Yeah, no, it's I know that you could have different versions. It's just that if you would like to have F64 support, you probably would have to have those kind of overrides for the whole library everywhere. But in that case, it's probably better if that person goes in and is like, okay, I rewrote the library. Like I changed F64, but it's, yeah, you might have to go into shaders and change it too. You know, it's not simple. It just I think you have to decide at the start that this supports F32. Draw texture rec. Okay, what does this one do? Okay, if text.id equals 0, then we like import core log. Then we just like log error f invalid texture return. Otherwise we do rl.draw rectangle, no, draw texture rec, and then we can do textures text.id, and we can say rect and pos, and the color can do rl white for now. So, and this one, I think the rect in raylib project feels like it can't find. Oh, it's called rectangle in raylib, that's why, I think. XY with file. Okay, yeah, it's transmutable. Like that. Oh, yeah. That. And now we can maybe do like kl.draw texture rect atlas rect tile world pos. Now we'll have a new funny problem where I don't think these rectangles will be compatible. Oh, we're also in a file where we haven't imported this stuff. Wait, this is the only. Yeah, so now this one isn't compatible anymore. We can fix that. In the Atlas builder, I think. Oh, where is it? Oh yeah, you just this is it's okay, it's defined as an rl.rectangle. Currently. I guess that's an interesting problem. How do you reuse types between? Nah, I haven't used any LLMs for the. This is gonna be interesting, and now we're gonna have lots of problems like that. That's all the question is. Should it be XY WH or should it be XY height width? Or yeah, should it be width and height or should it be W and H? That's yeah, I tend to agree that it should be .h because I tend to write that a lot. X2, yeah, but if you do X2, Y2, then it's a different, then not the same thing, right? Then it's, then you're defining the corners, not the position and the size. And those are also two, like what's the best thing there? I tend to prefer the width and height. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have so many problems now because there's gonna be like everywhere where we currently use the everywhere we currently use it's gonna like complain, even though they're mutually intelligible. Atlas rec.width. Did I change that one? Oh yeah, so now it's like this. And then we go here and we check. Okay, for some reason. Oh, okay, okay, that one is. Like that. These, of course, are all gonna go into the API later, but for now I just need to do some of this to make it compile. Or am I even doing the correct? Am I doing this in the wrong way? Could I just get away with having this here? Maybe that's a better idea to make it less chaotic now. Let's undo that. Let's undo that. Oh, these are gonna be. Oh wait, what do I want to do here? What are we doing? The performance is good. It's fine. It's similar to C. There's some overhead sometimes, maybe with bound checks that you can turn off when you don't need them, but maybe what you should do is here transmute it to this one for now. Maybe that's a better idea than to change everything because of Atlas rect is texture. Okay, so everywhere where we do that, but then we just change those to kl dot wait, texture dot rect. What's that? Oh, that's the rect inside. Okay, the draw. Oh, the texture pro. Okay, I get it. That one is. This is currently a raylib texture. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's my own kind of texture now. And moving between two APIs like this is a bit of a it's a bit interesting. Oh well. I'm gonna it's a short break. Be right back. Okay, let's see here. I think what we're gonna do is this. Gonna go in here and we're gonna like maybe have a little utils file somewhere here or helpers. Fine. Yeah, in here we're gonna do like rl rect. And we're gonna do a proc and we're gonna take a rect and we return an rl.rectangle. And this will be like that. And we just import the library. And then we can, of course, we should return trans. Okay, we need to import raylib in here. Import rl vendor raylib. Then we need to transmute. Actually, maybe it's the we'll need both. This is just a little helper for doing this, getting things working. Wait, that's like this. It will be removed at some point. Wait. No. KL. That. And now we can just like draw texture. Okay, we need to implement that no, we don't need to right now. We can just implement the first one. Draw texture rec. Maybe we just implement this one as well. So this is the name here, Draw Texture Pro. It's someone said it's position rotation and something more, and some people say it's project. It's not the best name, but it is a bit funny because it sort of it takes two rectangles and an origin and a rotation and just not exactly sure what a better name is, but draw, it's like, what would I like to do? I would be like, yeah, I was usually said that, I use pro because I'm professional, as a joke, but or that it was, there was the extra hard one with many parameters, so it's pro. But someone said it's probably projection or position rotation or origin. Position rotation origin. That might be it also. But then maybe it should be like that. I don't know. Draw texture. I understand why it has a weird name, because it's not the easiest thing to name. Because this is like, it has like a source and a dest, and then it's of course the question: is that what I want? Do I want like a? I think it's a useful thing. It's one of my favorite ways to draw textures, because you can both define where on the screen and where to take them from and everything. Origin, that's vector 2, and then there's a rotation, something like that. Draw texture rect, text source dest. And I think in Raylib all the procedures sort of call this one, that's the pro, like this one would just call that one with other options. So it's the one that's the most generic. In Odin you could also use an overload, like you could have like draw texture with many options, draw texture rectangle, and then just make an overload. Overloads like that is a bit, it doesn't necessarily make the code easier to read, because it's like you can't just look at the code and be like, oh, it's doing this, because it's just, you have to look at the parameters and like try to guess what it does. Let's call it pro for now. So it's funny, it's like wrapping an API. You can of course wrap it in a very, I guess you could wrap it and just copy it all, but then you would probably, it's probably better to do the to suffer while you're doing it, rather than just make a clone of it and then try to untangle it later, because then you're just gonna end up with an API that looks like Raylib. I said, and made a function that does exactly the same thing. Right. Huh. Got 6. Yeah, there's a color at the end. Maybe I want the color though. We'll see. Cannot assign. Yeah. Then we need a KL rect here. Where is Atlas rect coming from? Texture.rect. Yeah, we're gonna fix that later. Or maybe this is an absolutely terrible way to do this, because maybe what you should do is just build the API and then build a test application and then you can port it to it. But let's just call this my test application for now. Because this game is not that big. It's really not that big. It doesn't, and it's quite. Oh, this is inside the editor now. Import KL. Do a texture. Right. Så är det. Unload texture. Unload. There's a question in Odin often you write delete when it's like about freeing memory. But delete, or you can have free, or you can have unload. Because you have load and unload, but it's or destroy. I've often been like delete, destroy, and yeah, kinda that combination. that. And of course now we don't have a free. I'm gonna swap this out for some kind of array with a free list at some point. It's not that important right now. Right, and then we can do kl.destroy texture gmail. And then we can do dim load texture atlas file name, and then we do atlas text okay, else we like log.error failed to load v, and then we say texture atlas file name with error. That's not an okay, that's an error. Something like that. So now it's already a bit different API then, because there's an error there. I mean, you can also think, do you want an error there, or do you want like just an ID and you can check the error later or something, but yeah. Something like that. I'm gonna swap this a bit later because currently it has no way to reuse a slot, and we can't just remove things in the array. But I'll just clear it out for now. But yeah, doesn't have log imported. I think I'm not using the logger here, but core log. Raw texture rec. Okay. Raw texture rect atlas tile or grid pos. And then we need to say klrect. So at some point we're gonna be able to remove all these helper function calls, the klrect. Draw texture pro atlas tr dest 00. So if we can come up with a better name for draw texture pro, that does the same thing as the Rayleigh one, kinda. Maybe that's like the default draw texture. I don't know. So lots of things in the editor. kl.draw texture rect atlas t.rect, and then we have some funny things going on. Hello, welcome. Right, atlas text r Okay, load texture atlas file name. We can assert that atlas takes r nil, otherwise we just like this maybe. I think we're getting there. Still in the editor. Draw texture pro. KL rect. So I haven't decided to replace Raylib, but this is just exploratory programming, we could call it, to get that in there. Editor font. Okay, here it is gonna be. Here we need probably here we need some kind of temporary workaround that we can remove later when the font also understands our own textures and whatever, or if that font even works like that. But we need some way to fetch the Raylib texture here, because otherwise I have to fix all the fonts before it compiles, and it's just gonna be a mess. So we do that to get that one, and we just do something like this, and then we just do return textures text.id. That's all you need to do, because then you can just do kl.rl texture blah. Should work. Set shapes texture. This is the same thing. I think we're quite close. kl.destroy texture gmail.atlas. Remove that. And then atlas. Yeah, so it's actually this stuff. There you go. I was running through that little wrapper. And everything still works. I mean, there's a little error there currently because we leaked this array. That's what the error was probably. But this is just that's fine for now. Right, that's an interesting start to, like, then I would maybe think about what a font should be. I would maybe come up with a better name for this. Think a bit about what I actually want for the signature. I mean, I don't want it to be completely Raylib. I'll just do the stuff from Raylib that I like, and I'll change the rest. But yeah, that's a start at least. No, I didn't make another project. This is this is from last year. Today I made it run again. This actually has quite some work in it. You can like pop off your head and control that and run around. I did this last year in June, August or something. Then you have a long nose, open door, but anyways, I was like thinking today that maybe, oh thank you, maybe I need to have some, maybe I want to not use Raylib directly in my code so that I can replace Raylib at some point, maybe, or you can put it on a platform where you don't have Raylib or something. And also just like then it's more safe for the future, because if all your gameplay code just uses your own API, then you can easily just go in and change what that one calls into, what it how the implementation is. I don't mean like OpenGL or GLFW. I mean like that the game has its own wrapper, not wrapper, it has its own sort of like rendering layer or whatever. And currently this is what I did today. I just did a little wrapper of Raylib and trying to think of sort of API things and stuff. But then there was lots of philosophical discussion about how one best writes stable APIs in Odin, because it's not completely clear, like how to make sure that you don't accidentally change an API, like if you publish this as a library for other people to use, because you might accidentally change APIs if you just has a package with lots of procedures and you're just calling them inside the package. In C you have a header that can be a bit more like you don't go in and change the header API. But I mean, I was just playing around here and trying to think of what I like from Raylib, but so far it's pretty much just Raylib wrapped. Carlib, that's just something I wrote. It's probably called something else. It's my something for rendering. Carl Raylib. Yeah, we'll see. Do you know if there's an alternative to Odin's lack of duck typing? I mean, you can, if you have a union of two things, then you can use it, or to me, Odin does a fair amount of duck typing, because if you do like a some proc takes a what, that's a of any type, then if what dot has this field, then do stuff. I mean, now you can use this proc, then it will generate a version for that type that you use it with, but it will only compile if it has that field. So it will just like, if I now write some proc 5, won't compile. Error what of in type has no field, has this field, but then you can be like something is a struct that has this field is an int, or let's just for then it didn't compile because and now it didn't work because it expected it to be a bool, but yeah, this will implicitly require it to be a string. And then I can program, and then that will work. Now it checks if that string is not empty, and then you can do stuff. And you could check the type of that field, like if type of thing is something, then I mean that, but that will, for every type you use this with, will generate a version of this procedure with that type. So you can just see it as, when you run it like this, you can see it as copy pasting it in here, and you could sort of see that this as similar to doing this. You can do a proc group. This should also work. I mean, it yeah, whatever. I wish there was a weird class to check the fields of the value. Oh, if the type has a field. Is there? Type has field. Okay, let's see. Where intrinsics, the type has field T has this field. Intrinsics, I just haven't imported it. Import base intrinsics. Alright. Ah, no, wait, that didn't work. Type has field. So the slightly tricky thing about the intrinsics is that you can use them in a where no, I don't think it's about what type it is. I mean, no, that won't work, but it's about that where clauses expect a constant Boolean evaluation, and okay, you mean this one? Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, sorry, yes. You're right. You should probably use this. Yeah, that was... yeah. So, now I can probably do this. Hi. Yeah, but if I use some other... if I change the name, then it no longer compiles. I mean, even if I did this. The only tricky thing here is to know which procedures can you actually use, because it's actually not, it's not completely well, like which can you use here? Well, it's the one that are the ones that are evaluated at compile time. Not all procedures in intrinsics are evaluated at compile time, but usually the ones that ask for a type ID and give you some kind of info, those are. It's a bit hand wavy, but there are a few in here, if I remember correctly, that will not work at compile time. So they won't work in a weird clause like this. Anyways, that's just a little something. Did I remove something bad? No. Good. Okay, that's it for, it's 11:40. The morning is over officially. So the morning stream is over. So I'm gonna go have lunch. Thank you all for watching. I'll see, maybe I'll play around a bit more with this. We'll see. I'll try to think a bit about what it is I actually want, because, you know, it's a bit, right now I'm just wrapping Raylib in some kind of weird attempt to make this code not use Raylib. But the whole point is that you should be able to, at some point, have sort of a stable API. Maybe I can make my own little Raylib-like thing that's written in Odin or something. Who knows? We'll see where it lands. No promises at all in any way. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.